In this video, we follow along for a day of street photography with Cal Holland, a photographer who captures the humour, chaos and intimacy of people in public. We'll explore the stories behind his shots and his process for getting close and capturing moments that offer us a vivid glimpse of modern street life. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, because your style, you get super close, you're bold, confident. Like, how did that come about? Like, what interested you to kind of get really intimate with your subjects?
I mean, really interested in faces, like especially in the winter when everyone's wrapped up. There's nothing interesting about people's bodies when they're wearing huge coats. So in the winter, I'll end up shooting closer and closer and closer to people. It's still terrifying, like all the time. That doesn't really go away. But I saw there was like a Paulie B video where he asked Chris Voss like a similar type of question about fear, and he was like, "You just have to really want to take the photo." And that's basically the way I think it. Just like wait until you see something you really, really want to take, and then just go for it, kind of thing. Like,
what is it that makes you think I've really got to take this photo?
Well, I guess that would be like, what am I looking for? And it's something unique, like a human moment. Like, I love those things, something that you've never seen before. That's like the exciting thing of going out, being like, oh, I get to go see something that no one else has ever seen or will ever see. Like, that's the best thing if you can get that.
Kind of overused term of triggers.
Yeah.
What catches your eye? What are you actually looking for when you're on the street?
I've got a couple of them. Like, let me think. Yeah, I mean, like more broader ones would be anything really chaotic, and then like human connection. Like chaos and connection, those are kind of more broader ones, and then there's way more niche specific ones, which are more like an exercise in like, every time I see that, I'll take that photo, and then hopefully you get a good one out of however month. So there's like shoes, got a whole set of those that I always work on, which when I started out was like an easy photo because it's like empty shoes on the street kind of thing, there's no people in it. But now I'm like, trying to find more photos with shoes in, with people in, like someone running carrying shoes, or like someone falling over and their shoes falling off and stuff like that, and trying to like build more complex photos out of what was quite a simple thing to start off with. Like injured people, like eye patches specifically, quite a lot of those. Horses are just really interesting, really like shooting them. I've actually like recently been like, I need to go on some type of like horse riding holiday just to shoot photos and ride horses. Like, that would be cool.
Is it just that you noticed one once and thought, hey, that's interesting, and I want to just kind of keep trying to find that kind of image? Or
yeah, like the horse one, just like got a good horse photo once, and I was like, oh, well, let's look out for more of these. The shoe one, like I said, was like an exercise in like take an easy picture when you're new and learning kind of thing. And I thought, oh, there's automatically a story if you see a shoe on its own, like your imagination goes a little bit kind of thing. But a lot of the times they'll just be like, oh, I've ended up taking a bunch of photos of this and then figure it out later. Like, I very much try and do that. Just shoot anything that even slightly interests you, and then after the fact, when you're culling and editing, like put them together into something.
You're shooting on film today though, right? So do you worry about how many shots you're taking, or you just take what you see?
Not really. Try not to think about it. Like that whole thing of, you know, that people say, oh, shoot film because it slows me down. I think with street photography, it should kind of be the opposite. Like, I use film, which I guess kind of, I like the way it looks, and it separates my work photography from like photography just for myself. But the funnest time I have is when I get really into a flow and I'm shooting loads of photos and like burning through rolls. So yeah, you just don't think about it, like, and end up paying for it later.
Do you have the same route every time you come out and shoot?
Not every time. Usually for the first like hour I'll do the same loop and then just kind of wing it for the rest of the day. But yeah, pretty much always shoot in Central unless there's an event to go to or traveling kind of thing. Like, I get when people like shoot your local area in your community, and I don't enjoy that at all. I like the like anonymity of Central London and just the density of people. Like, my favorite thing is shooting is like weaving through a crowd of people, and like the more people around the better.
What would be your advice be to someone that wants to get up close and more intimate, raw photos?
I mean, it's just like a numbers game, really. You just have to like do it and do it and do it. And like, yeah, you will get a bad interaction every now and again, but if you have good body language and you try and diffuse that situation, it's never actually that bad. Like, I've never been physically assaulted. I've had people swing at me, but like, I never know it's actually like made contact or anything. And like, it leaves you a bit shaken after, for sure, but you just have to want to take the photo, and like, enough. Like, if it's a good photo, it's worth it, you know? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to SantaCon again. We were at that last year, it was fun, man.
Yes, that's where I first met you, was at SantaCon.
Yeah.
And that's something I wanted to ask you about, is you seem to photograph quite a lot of events.
That's like kind of relating back to what you were asking about, for people started building confidence shooting people. Just shoot events, like, they're the best. Like, people are kind of on show there, so they don't mind you taking the photo, and yeah, it's great. I love them.
How do you go about an event? Because I think events are tough, right? They're great for beginners, like you said, but to get something original, something different, it's difficult.
Yeah.
So what's your process? Do you just go open mind, see what you see, or do you have like a way of working?
I don't like shooting people who have like come out to be photographed, kind of thing. Like, there are certain events where you're just like, all of these people have like, they're there to ask to have their photo taken, and I find that boring. So you're trying to find a unique human moment from people who are like at an event that might be dressed differently or look differently or something. Like, those are the best ones if you can combine those two things, but that's rare, so you just got to shoot loads of photos and hope you get it.
You're looking for like singular images that you can show out of context.
I mean, yeah, with that one, like, after the fact, I put them up on my website as like a group, because I was like, oh, something about these people and these photos really interested me, and I was like, I'm going to keep shooting that kind of thing. So that came about after I'm never thinking about that when I'm taking the photo, though. I'm just thinking about a single photograph every time.
I didn't realise you've only been doing street for 2 years or so.
Yeah, when was that? June 2022, I think I started. I'd have to double check that. It was 2 years this summer, so it's 2.5 years, 2 and a bit years now.
What made you start street photography?
I got a film camera in 2020, like during, right at the end of 2020, COVID times. You know, people were getting more into hobbies and needed stuff to do, and then just started taking really bad photos, walking around, like nothing street related kind of thing, and then started watching YouTube videos and things like that, and just kind of came across that kind of sphere of YouTube street photography. Like, Paulie B's videos started coming out. I really clearly remember watching the first walkie-talkie with Dustin, and I was like, oh, I want to go do that. And I'm like, I even hold the camera how he says he holds the camera in the video, because he's like, that is a really quick motion, that is really obvious, and people notice. So so it was like around that time when I went out and tried it, and yeah, just loved it. Yeah, now it's like all I do.
I think there's some film photographers that like the long wait, you know, they save up a bunch of rolls. That's not for you.
No, I wish I could do that, but I just think it really impacts your like learning and growth. Like, I'm always thinking about, when I get the photos back, like, what did I do wrong here, and how can, when I go shoot next time, like, fix that? Because I think with the different limitations of your camera, you've got to be kind of aware with it. Like, I'll get scans back and I'll be like, oh, that time I was shooting too fast, I wasn't holding the camera with two hands because this thing can only go to 2/50th, or I'll be shooting with too much headroom in a photo, which I hate. Like, if you're putting their face in the middle of the frame, you've just got all this empty space in the photo above them, which adds nothing. So I'm always trying to like point the camera down and have their heads just at the top of the frame. Like, those are the photos that I really like, when you've got faces in kind of the top of the frame, and ideally other things going on below it as well. I mean, I often struggle with this, and I'm like, fuck, all my photos, they just have the subject bang in the middle and there's nothing going on around the edges, and I hate that. Like, I mean, they are some of the most impactful photos. You know, you think of the Jeff Mermelstein book in the mouth shot. There's nothing else going on in that photo. It is just brilliant, and it's one of the most like iconic street photos of all time. So those are great, but you don't want them all the time. So I don't know, if I get a well-composed photo with other things going on, it's usually a complete fluke. Like, I'm not thinking about it, and great if it works out. But yeah, I guess trying to have in the back of your mind, see if there's other stuff going on. If I like actually stop, focus on something, look around, I'll place other things in the frame, but if I'm walking, it's just snap and go. But it's probably just something that you just have to practice at and keep taking photos, and then hope you get better at composition. But yeah, there are lots of other photographers that I look up to that are way better at that. And sometimes I'll shoot from the chest, or like not look through the viewfinder, and I like the composition of them quite a lot, to be honest. Like when I get random ones that work like that.
Tell me about your other influences you had. Like, so when you first picked up street photography, you're looking at YouTube videos, but
yeah, I mean, I definitely like the documentary Everybody Street. I just rewatched that on the flight out to New York to like get myself hyped for it. The Mermelstein section is that. Like, I think obviously the actual photos really like influenced me, but like seeing people shoot physically, I love doing that. Like watching videos of people working, or like those like Magnum workshop series where you like go along with a photographer for the day. Those get me so hyped to go out and shoot, kind of thing. So yeah, it was that Mermelstein stuff, loads of Martin Parr's work. Like I really admire his just crazy obsession with photography. How many books he's made and how many projects he's shot, and that kind of enthusiasm is amazing. Daniel Arnold as well. His work's just like kind of got that like brilliant chaotic element that I really like.
yeah, something that I noticed in your work, like, there's a lot of characters in your work, but they're not people trying to be characters, right? You can tell they're so how do you notice those kind of people?
That's like the fun bit, really. That's like going out and just being hyper observant. Like when I go out shooting, I feel like my brain relax, and it's like when you're just being observant, and that's like the most enjoyable bit, really. Yeah, it's just like studying people. Right, let's make a move down.
From your work, from what I've seen that you post on Instagram, the majority is in colour.
Yeah.
The colour, so firstly, tell me how important colour is to you in your work, how you're looking for colour, but also do you shoot black and white as well in your process for that?
Yeah, I definitely, and when I'm out shooting, that's like one of the things I'm looking for is colour. Definitely attracted to it for myself. I just prefer having more information in the photo, and part of that is colour. But I'll like buy more prints and postcards of black and white photos, like, and more photographers that I like shoot black and white. And I shoot like one roll of black and white every couple of months.
For yourself and for other photographers you admire, but what makes a successful photograph, a street photograph for you?
If you can make something that a large amount of people can connect with, then it's probably going to be a successful photo. Like, what ones am I thinking of? Like the Elliot Erwitt photo of the woman sat on the step and she's got a bulldog in front of her, kind of thing. Like, I think I actually have seen his like contact sheet of that, and he shot like a whole roll on it, which is crazy, but good. It's like you should do that until you get the right one. And yeah, I mean everyone who can look at that photo gets it, appreciates it. It's composed great. It is like a perfect photo in that way. Yeah, and it's not too niche, you know. Like if you have to explain to most people why it's a good photo, it's probably not that good of a photo.
Humour, little details, that stuff that I see pop up in your work all the time.
Definitely.
Is that, yeah, talk to me about that. How do you notice that stuff to begin with? How important is it to you? And your process for that, really, yeah.
Definitely important. I definitely kind of enjoy those photos. Like humour in photographs, something I really appreciate in like the photographers that I look up to, like Richard Calver, who we were talking to, Mermelstein. They all kind of have like a funny angle to them. I don't really like that too obvious like contrast of person and funny sign or something like that, but like a bit more of a vague humour to them. Small details as well, like that's just kind of what I have fun looking out for. And it's that thing that like regular people don't notice it, and then once you get into street you start noticing it, and that's really exciting. I always think it's interesting that like before you're into street photography, places like this just suck. Like before I was into street photography, I would never want to walk down Oxford Street on a Saturday. Like it's weird how it makes kind of objectively bad places really, really good. Like Times Square in New York. Everyone who lives in New York are like, don't go there, it's horrible, but it's great for taking photos in.
How often do you go out and get nothing?
Get no good photos quite a lot. I usually will always take photos, but you're just going to suck at it for a long time. That's my experience. Yeah.
Have you got a goal with your street photography, an end goal or something you're working towards?
Yeah, just do it for fun, really. Like, I quite like having no commercial side to it at all. Because I do photography for a living as well, like try to keep them as separate as possible and just kind of do it for, you know, exercise and expression, you know, like just as a hobby. People ask me like, oh, are you gonna sell your photos? I'm like, oh, it gives me the ick. Like, I just don't want to do that. Like I have very few times when people have reached out and they're like, can I buy this? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm not gonna say no to money, but I'm never gonna like actively try to sell them.
So in that vein, talking about, you know, just doing it for fun, what's your relationship like with social media?
Pretty good. Like, you meet a lot of people from it. It's nice to, like, when you meet someone, find out their Instagram and like look at their work and kind of get more of a sense of who they are from their photography. Yeah, try and only follow photographers that I really like and like keep that amount of people you're following down to kind of like curate what you're seeing. I mean, I'll just put anything out there. It doesn't have to, I'm not very precious with it. I kind of use it more like a diary, like, well, this is what I shot this week. Like, I have a website that's like a portfolio that is a lot more curated that I only update every like 3 or 6 months or something.
How important do you think looking at other people's work is, like contemporary work but also work of the greats?
Yeah, super important. I think you can be a really good photographer without it, but it's just fun, man. Like, there's like the funnest thing about getting into street photography is like that deep diving into the really, really rich history of it. You know, like the first time you find out about the Americans and read that, like, it's amazing. And there's a free PDF of it online. Anyone can look at it. And then, yeah, just like that steep dive studying into it. Like, I love Stephen Leslie's show and tell videos. So that just like nerding out on the history of photography is amazing.
You don't look for light, right? This doesn't play a part in your compositions.
Not at all. I mean, it's a nice thing to have, but yeah, like, I don't really like super light and contrasty, shadowy images and stuff. There are people who are great at it, but it's just not what I'm interested in.
I think a lot of beginners who want to get into street photography can use light as their main subject, or they kind of.
Yeah,
like you said, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's more accessible to people, like, and then once you start learning about photography and things we're saying, and like seeing all the greats and the work they like really put into documenting people and like the human experience, I guess, you appreciate that more than light and shadow and shapes, I guess. But that takes longer to get into, I think. Looks like there's something going on down Whitehall. You know, I was talking about those 3 events in the summer, not the Lord Mayor's show, the King's birthday parade and stuff like that. So one of the really good spots to catch all the people coming out is here, and then the other one is Whitehall. And it just like, you get a really good like kind of old London feel with like the dramatic buildings and all those like super posh people in their fancy clothes and stuff. I like that. Yeah, and it's like, when you add in things like that into what you're shooting, you're more likely to be able to get a timeless photo, which is like an absolute win. If you can't tell when it was taken in the photo, I love that. I started doing the, if I need to stand somewhere and someone's approaching me, and I don't want them to think I'm like setting up to take the photo, do the like clean the viewfinder. It's like a different version of the, you know, the Winogrand, like playing with settings, but I find it's like really obvious then that that's what you're doing kind of thing. Like keep cleaning the camera and then you're looking through it and then you can take the photo. Missed all the action here last weekend, didn't we? Yeah, on the other side of those buildings, oh watch out, there's a bus coming, there's like this big open green space and all the ex-military people and stuff, all in their uniforms, they go and drink there after the parade, and it's my favourite thing to shoot because, you know, like there's so much history and story in their clothes and all these like old men with wrinkled faces who have like seen the war and stuff, and then they're all like doing shots of whiskey and sipping on flasks. It's my favourite. So I have one with a, like, you can't really see any faces, it's like all just bodies and like a row of shots lined up on a bench, but I missed focus on it, so I'm unhappy with it in that way, but I like the composition of the photo, which is rare.
How do you feel about that, like sort of missing focus or some things that just aren't quite...
I mean, I try and tell myself it doesn't matter, and I don't think it matters, but when you first get the photo back, you're definitely disappointed. Like, I think my photo that the most people have seen is of a horse and cart falling over at this like transportation parade where they show vehicles from all through history and stuff, and that is the worstly taken photo technically I've ever shared. So I was shooting flash zone focus to like 1.5 meters, so my zone extended to like 3, and I was at 1/25th shutter speed for shooting flash, and it happened like 6 meters away really fast, so my flash isn't reaching the subject, it's out of focus, it's so underexposed, and when I got the photo back I was like, this is absolute shit, it's so bad. And yeah, it's like the one that people kind of responded to, I think, the most out of any photo I've ever taken. And I hated it at first, and now I've grown to like it.
I think that's a great advocacy for perfection doesn't matter. Like,
No.
in fact, the opposite often makes a photo even better.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Like, you look at Magnum contact sheets and listen to photographers and stuff, and like, back in the day, like, it just didn't matter. You could fuck up a photo, and if you're looking at it in a photo book, in a series, that's not what you're looking at. You're looking at the storytelling for it completely. Yeah, the amount of photo book, oh, that's so cute. It's a cute photo to finish the roll with. But yeah, the amount of photos in photo books that are just totally out of focus, and you're like, it just doesn't matter.
So talking about photo books, enjoying looking through them, is that something you've ever thought about doing yourself? A zine or a photo book? Putting some work together, sequencing it?
Yeah, I definitely enjoy sequencing, but it's all kind of tied up in what we were talking about before about like not wanting to like sell my work in that way. Like, I've only been doing this for like 2.5 years. I think I have that mindset of it would be better to just like every 2 years work on a project, put that out and get better at the act of creating something and doing it, but it just doesn't really work with my personality, I think. And so I'm probably more like I'll shoot for 10 years and then figure out what it is after the fact. You know, like Matt Stewart's All That Life Can Afford, which I'm sure he was working on other projects at the time. Like, I saw an interview recently where someone asked him, what would you tell your younger self? And he'd be like, work on more projects earlier on. And I'm not taking that advice on board, but I understand why he didn't do it at the beginning. Like, you're just so enthusiastic about, I just want to go out and shoot, and I just want to get better, and I just want to like take as many photos as possible. I think I'm still in that mindset. I think I got one of my favorite photos here. I think earlier on this year, and it was in like a time when I was feeling really confident at getting close to people, and there was a guy I was following him, there was a guy walking up, and he was picking his teeth with a toothpick, and I crossed over his face to get the photo, like went in front of him, wasn't happy with the photo, and I did it like 2 more times. It wasn't until he like actually got to the lights and stopped, and I got the photo, and you can see his wife in the background as well, and he just didn't care, like, at all. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you're doing something really vulnerable, which usually, like, they're great photos, but people are on their guard for, and he's just letting me take the photo in front of him.
When someone does notice you, though, and they're unhappy, what do you do to sort of diffuse the situation?
Yeah, I think when I was a few years back, I would do that, like, talk to them, pay them a compliment, smile at them, do all those tricks that you get told to do, kind of thing. And I think I've just got more comfortable with not caring about it, which, like, I will still pay. If I see something, I take a photo of someone and I really like what they have, like, oh, those are great glasses, I'll say it occasionally. But now I'm just kind of like, they look at me and I'm like, I walk past, they walk past, and I know they've forgotten it in 2 seconds. Like, obviously I don't want to upset anyone, and don't want to, like, make someone feel bad, but I don't think I do that, and I try to have, like, good body language when I'm out shooting, but who knows. But I also don't agree with that when people are like, oh, you need to do street photography and only share photos of people at their best and not make people look bad, because you're out here, people are in public space, you should capture or document people as they are, really.
You love the innocence of, like, young children and families, and that resonates with you. Like, something that a comment that I get quite a lot on the YouTube channel is that people take offense to that, about having their kids or seeing other people's kids, photos of them in public. How do you feel about that attitude, I guess?
You're never taking a photo of a child to try to make them look bad, as we were saying. It's usually because it's a beautiful moment or something like that. And yeah, the great thing about photographing with children, like, especially in public, they're playing. There's no pretension to them. They're not like people who care about how they look or what they're doing and how they're perceived. That is, like, the funnest thing.
Have you got a dream city or place that you'd like to go and photograph in?
Well, I want to go shoot, not a city, but like I was saying this morning, I want to shoot some type of project on horses. So, like, go on, like, a horse riding holiday and shoot that, because I think that would be totally out of my comfort zone. You're shooting from a different perspective by, like, being on top of a horse, and you're getting, like, people and animals in. Like, that would be really fun. Shooting cities for street, I think, like the American South, would be really cool. Like, I really want to go to New Orleans and Nashville, places like that. That would be really sick. You've got a lot of just kind of, like, similar to what we were talking about, like the Remembrance Day parade. It's like people are wearing clothes that evoke memories and emotion, which is like, if you manage to link that together with, like, a unique moment, then you've got a great photo, kind of thing. So yeah, those kind of places would be great. Yeah, so it's hard, people really displaying emotion in public spaces. You've got to walk a lot and see a lot of people to hopefully capture that. But when you do, it's great. Like, when I started therapy, my therapist was like, can I see your photos? Which was wild. And then he was like, picked out themes, and he's like, these are things we're talking about that you're, like, exploring in your life, and it's clearly coming through in your photos. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense.
And someone messaged you recently, right, to use their photo on an album cover, I think, was it?
Yeah. That was cool. Like, it was just a photo of a little sign in a car window, and that was taken in Hackney, like, not in central London. I was just walking out my flat, and it was like a note written to someone who had robbed them, and they were, like, really religiously scolding them, like, God's gonna make you burn in hell and all that stuff and kind of thing. And he was like, oh, I'm making a beat, can I use your photo? I was like, yeah, man, that's so sick. Like, I was really happy about that.
Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Jesus Christ is the living water. Jesus Christ is the living bread. When you come to Jesus...
took the first one, and then he got closer and the wind picked it up, and then my camera was advancing the film, so I pressed the button and it didn't take the second one. I was like, I should have waited. Oh, I'll just crop in.
How do you feel about cropping?
I love it, yeah. I always crop photos. You know, you can't be in the right place every time, you know, like I'll see something like a quick tiny moment in someone's hand or on their face or something like that, and I'm like, just take the photo, even if you're not close enough. Like, you get decent enough size scans, I'll, like, some of the photos I've cropped into like so tight on 35, and obviously if I was printing them that would be shit, but if you're just showing them online it's totally fine.
Especially for newer or beginner street photographers, because oftentimes it can be quite like, you feel there's quite a few barriers to street photography, and you get told all this stuff that you have to always get the composition right in frame.
You have to shoot in manual.
It's nice to get rid of those myths and just go out and shoot.
Yeah, it's like I love on the Magnum Instagram when they show those like 2 photos of the original photo and then the darkroom print with all the work they've done on it, and it's mostly just dodging and burning, but they post one of those every now and again. You're like, every time you're like, the reminder is just like, people have been doing it forever. Edit your photos, do as much as you want with them. Like, at the end, what you put out, that's your expression or your bit of art or whatever, you know, and it doesn't matter. And that's Magnum sharing those. So it's like, you can't really disagree with it. Wow, look at this man. He looks like Einstein.
Daddy ran.
Oh, I couldn't care less. That was great.
If you could give one piece of advice to a beginner street photographer or someone just starting out, what would it be?
Well, I think the thing that I get asked the most is, how are you confident enough to shoot people close up in the face and things like that? Like, and one, I don't think anyone really is. Like, you just kind of have to get over it. And the way I do that is repetition and practice. Just go out and do it over and over and over again. And that seems really simple, but I don't know if people are told that enough. Like, go out and try and be like, set your camera to the minimum focus distance, and so that you know if you're too far away it's going to be blurry and you fucked it. So you have to get close. Just go up and try it, and then, like, the more you do that, the easier it'll get. And then the other thing is just like, you have to shoot the thing that you're interested in the most, because that will make you the most confident in getting it. So if it's people's faces, or if it's a certain thing that people do, really focus on that and then keep doing that.
Let everyone know where they can find you, show you some love.
It's at Cal_Holland on Instagram, and my website is calholland.com.